Good evening, America. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to the latest edition of Just the News, No Noise. I'm your host, John Solomon, reporting to you as always from Washington, D.C. and the WiredToFishCoffee.com studios. You know this, Wired to Fish Coffee is the official coffee of Just the News. It's my favorite coffee, and you can go right now to WiredToFishCoffee.com and get a fantastic 10% discount. All you got to do is use the promo code JustNews at checkout. Wired, the number 2, FishCoffee.com. Go there. They support us. Give them a big try. They're awesome. All right, we have a big update for you on reporting. We did here at Just the News last October around California Senator Adam Schiff, the man behind Russia collusion. Remember him? And a concern about mortgage fraud concerns. Last year, we reported that Senator Schiff had repeatedly declared in mortgage filings that 2 of his homes, one in California, one in Maryland, were both in his primary residences, and that is a problem because Americans are only allowed to claim one primary residence, which is the home that they live in the majority of the year. Claiming both homes as his primary residence ended up netting the senator some great benefits like lower mortgage interest rates, tax advantages, and the ability to run for the House in California. Now, fast forward to today, and the president is now speaking about it. Why? Because Fannie Mae, the mortgage giant, has concluded there's a reason to believe his conduct, that is Adam Schiff's conduct, was mortgage fraud. They've made a referral to the Justice Department. On Truth Social this morning, President talked about it, and then he gave some comments about it in response to a question by Real America's Voice's own Brian Glenn. Take a listen.
First, Letitia James, alleged mortgage fraud. Now we have Adam Schiff allegedly committed mortgage fraud at all. Yeah. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I just saw it, and I think the thing with Adam Schiff is very serious, and I think what they have on Letitia James is very serious. That's a very, very serious situation. But I have to leave that up to the district attorneys and to the prosecutors and to the attorney general, most importantly. And Adam Schiff looks very serious. Look, he's a sleazeball. Everybody knows it. And I was a little surprised. I thought he would have covered his bases a little bit better than that. Adam Schiff is a lowlife. He deserves what he gets.
Well, no subtlety in that answer, but an important one. Go back and check our story out from October. We have it up on the site. We also have the latest coverage today. And Democrats do have a mortgage problem. Remember, beyond Letitia James being under investigation, now Adam Schiff, Carol Mosby, the state attorney, Democrat state attorney in Baltimore, also was convicted in a mortgage fraud case about a year ago. So this is a growing problem. Amanda, watch what happens. You go around, you come around. And here's another little twist. Remember that Joe Biden, I think, put Adam Schiff on the pardons? Uh-huh. You know what Adam Schiff can't do in any proceeding before the Justice Department now?
Claim the Fifth.
He can't take the Fifth Amendment.
That's right.
Yeah, so fate has a funny way of turning itself around on
Isn't
it
it funny also that Adam Schiff even realizes how bad the housing market is in California? That he has to try to get breaks.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. All right, what are the headlines you watching?
Yes, indeed. All right, so here's one that some folks might have missed, and it involves the aftermath of, as we were talking about in California, those Pacific Palisades fires. The state of California has still not dealt with all of the fallout yet, but their latest attempt is catching some very harsh criticism. Now, we already know that California Governor Gavin Newsom announced that the state would allocate $101 million in taxpayer funds to create what they call multifamily low-income housing developments in the communities that were affected by the Palisades, Eaton, and Hughes wildfires. And now, the California Senate has passed a bill that ends up allowing the city of Los Angeles to use fire-destroyed lots to build low-income housing, and the bill gives the government authority to fund resilient building authorities and through that allow them to purchase fire-damaged lots to build on. Income-restricted housing has become a big business in Los Angeles. This year alone, 73% of planning applications are for income-restricted housing. Meanwhile, in the previous 4 years before this, that number was only 30%. Wow. So, John, my goodness, I mean, this is what a lot of people predicted. They said these houses are going to get raised, and then they're going to put low-income housing on them, and here we are.
We're taking this extraordinary, beautiful paradise that California is in, year after year, liberal election after liberal election, destroying one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's just terrible. You know, we focus on trend centers a lot here, Amanda, and the Pentagon has always been a trend center, whether it is the latest weaponry, the latest military strategies, all the great work that is done by the men and women in uniform in this great country. But they set a new trend this week. That's right. The Pentagon, under Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, decided to tell its employees they could no longer go to the Aspen Security I call it a boondoggle. And guess what? Other agencies started following suit. It started to trend all across Washington. What a good idea. Taxpayers, you save money. DOD workers. They go back to protecting the country instead of sitting at some fancy schmancy thing. Joining us right now, the Pentagon Press Secretary, Kingsley Wilson. Kingsley, great to have you on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. Great to be with you tonight.
What an amazing story. The Pentagon sets the example, tells its people, we don't need to spend taxpayer dollars on this. Stay home and do your work. And now all across Washington, people are canceling going to the Aspen Institute. Tell us why the Defense Secretary made this decision.
Absolutely. And as you point out, I think this security conference could be described as a boondoggle. And listen, at the Department of Defense, we are focused on war fighting. We're not a think tank. We are in the job of creating deadly, lethal, professional war fighters. So anything that detracts from that mission or that takes our focus away isn't something that the American taxpayer should be paying for and isn't something that our senior military leaders should be frequenting and attending. Bird watching at the Aspen Security Forum in Colorado is not a good amount of effort and time for senior military leaders in this department to be doing. We can do better things. We have emerging threats. We have real crises across the world. We need to be focused on lethality, putting our warfighters first, and getting back to basics. Unfortunately, the previous administration injected ideology into the Department of Defense, and they put politics into our military. We're taking that away, and we are focusing on what matters and what our mission set is. And I think Secretary Hegseth from the top down has instilled that across this department, and that's what you are seeing here in this decision and in every decision we make going forward.
Yeah.
I love it.
I do too. And Kingsley, when it comes to the Aspen Institute, I think they do claim to be nonpartisan, but they do seem to also be captured by the annals of the far left. How did they manage to create such momentum on the left side of the aisle? Because they've been inching in closer and closer to that direction for a while.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic question. And I think, sadly, a lot of the folks that frequent these events, they are lauded by the mainstream media as being national security, quote, experts, right? When in reality, their records are abysmal. They have created chaos abroad, and they have, at home, executed utter and complete failure. Under President Trump and Secretary Hegseth, we are refocusing on our homeland. We've got 12,700 troops at our southern border, for goodness sakes. We are putting our borders first, and we are getting out of these endless quagmires across the world that get our troops drawn into things that don't benefit the American people and that don't put America first. But sadly, so many of the elite class for decades has instead focused on the false ideology of globalism, and they have put America last at every single turn. What we are doing at this Department of Defense under Secretary Hegseth is getting back to basics, but also putting America first in every single aspect of what we do.
You mentioned the failures of the past. Some of the faces of those failures are present at this Aspen event. Jake Sullivan, the National Security Advisor to Joe Biden, the architect of the failed withdrawal from Afghanistan. Susan Rice, who was the face of the terrible tragedy in Libya, where we lost an ambassador and lost a lot of credibility in the attack on the compound there in Benghazi. The fact that the Biden folks are all over this, are they trying to structure Aspen as sort of a resistance to the Trump doctrine that is now very clear in the world today?
Perhaps. I can't speak on their behalf, but we can only guess as to what their agendas are to subvert President Trump. We saw that in the first term, right? There were a lot of folks on the outside trying to kind of detract from our mission set and what we were doing. Here at the department, we are laser focused on executing and implementing President Trump's America First agenda, top down, full stop. And folks like Jake Sullivan do not represent the best of our warfighters, right? Jake Sullivan for decades has advocated for endless war across the world, yet he's someone who's never served himself. We want to make sure that if we are asking our warfighters to go to war, which is a horrible thing, we like to deter and ensure that our warfighters are never put in those positions. But if they are asked to do that, we want them to know that it is worth it. And in President Trump and Secretary Hegseth, our warfighters know that they have a commander-in-chief and a secretary of defense who has their back and is going to put their interests first. And I think that's really why you see recruitment skyrocketing. We are breaking records across the board. Army, Air Force, Navy, everyone is hitting their recruitment goals early, months early, and that is going to continue because, again, we're getting back to basics, we're reinstilling that warrior ethos across the department, and we're ensuring that at the end of the day, our warfighters have everything they need to be successful to protect their homeland and keep Americans safe.
Yeah. And that record-breaking recruitment, I think, is a direct result of what seems like a very hard reset at the Department of Defense and within America's military. And Pete Hegseth actually spoke about that this weekend when he said, we are back to basics. We are moving away from the DEI garbage that was so distracting during the Biden administration, and now it's back to basics. What does that mean for the Department of Defense and the military?
Absolutely. It's a great point, and it's been a real focus of Secretary Hegseth from the moment he swore in, is getting this woke ideology, this garbage out of our Department of Defense. We want to get back to war fighting. We want to get back to basics, standards, meritocracy. Gone are the days where we focus on things like climate change and pronouns. We are focused on the mission, on putting America first, and on keeping the American people safe. And that's, again, across the department. Just to give you an example, you even look at our policy shops. Western Hemisphere, prior to Secretary Hegseth's tenure under the previous administration, was really focused on climate change across the Western Hemisphere and what we could do to go green. Now we're focused on getting China out of our hemisphere. We're focused on the Panama Canal. We've secured first and free navigation through that canal. And we're focused on our southern border. We've got a lot of troops down there who are proud to be working alongside Customs and Border Patrol to ensure that illegal aliens can no longer cross into our country. And we've seen illegal crossings drop to nearly zero. And that is a testament to Secretary Hegseth's leadership and what we are doing under this department.
Kingsley, one of the things I learned as a reporter early on was that the Pentagon is not only just an incredible warfighting machine, it's one of the largest education systems in the world. It teaches all of our fighting men and women's children in bases around the globe. And Secretary Hegseth and the department is doing some really unique stuff to empower parents, homeschooling, other things like that. This is a major initiative. Just tell us a little bit about the success of it thus far.
Absolutely. The Secretary is a big supporter of homeschooling and of parents being able to provide the education that they see fit for their children. And we want to do everything that we can to ensure that parents have options, especially our military families who already sacrifice so much for this country and do so much to support our cause and our mission. So it's really a way that we can give back, give them the options they deserve, and also prioritize flexibility. A lot of our military families are moving all across the globe at different times, and it can be difficult on children. So we want to make sure that all options are on the table and they have all the support that they need to take care of their families, because again, we recognize that they make incredible sacrifices for this country. It's not just the person who serves, right? It's their entire family that is supporting them and behind them every single step of the way. So we really are trying to improve across the board quality of life for our service members and their families. That's very near and dear to the Secretary's heart, and it will continue to be so as we look forward as a department.
Pretty cool.
It's a really important ecosystem of support is for people's children whose parents serve in the military. Kingsley, a year ago, would you have ever expected that you would be placing your hand on the Bible and taking an oath as the Secretary for the Pentagon?
Definitely not, but it has been quite an honor. It's a whirlwind for sure. I swore in Inauguration Day, so I've been here almost 6 months now, I think, and it flies by, but I can just tell you it is really such an honor to serve President Trump and Secretary Hegseth, but the biggest honor of my job is just shining a light on everything that our warfighters are doing. I always say I have the best job in the world because I get to talk about our nation's heroes, and that is truly an incredible honor, and I'm very thankful to have the opportunity to do it.
The photos you put up on social media yesterday were just awesome. Such a great moment to capture. I've seen it happen many times in 35 years, but it's special every time it happens. Kingsley, thank you for spending some time with us. Thanks for allowing us to cover this very important story over the last several days with Jerry Dunleavy and now the show here. Great to have you on the show today.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. He said that a little bit of bird watching. I was thinking at Aspen there's probably a lot of turkeys, but we'll see. I'm sorry. All right. We're going to take a quick commercial break. A few days ago, we had an incredible opportunity to sit down with the former World Bank president, David Malpass. He served under President Trump. He was a critic of the World Bank. He did a lot of reforms there. We're talking about the battle between Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, and President Trump. It's an amazing conversation. When we come back for the commercial break, we're going to cover that. We'll be right back. Hey folks, there's just one simple lifestyle upgrade we can all make. I made it, you should too. Field of Greens. If you drink a delicious glass of doctor-formulated Field of Greens each day, you're going to feel amazing like I do. Plus, your doctor's going to notice your improved health. You're going to get your money back. Who does that anymore? One Field of Greens customer wrote, "The best blood work I've had in a decade. My doctor said, whatever you're doing, keep doing it." That's exactly what my doctor told me. Another said, "For the first time in years, my cholesterol numbers are normal." And this mom said, "After Field of Greens, my hair, nails, energy, and blood work were all better." How can a fruit and vegetable drink promise better health? Well, it's easy. Each fruit and vegetable in Field of Greens was doctor selected to support vital organs like your heart, your liver, kidneys, your metabolism, and the immune system, and of course, healthy blood cells. Let me get you started on the same path I'm on with 20% off and free shipping. Visit fieldofgreens.com and use my code JUSTNEWS. That's fieldofgreens.com, promo code JUSTNEWS.
Welcome back, everybody. Earlier, we got the chance to speak to the former president of the World Bank, David Malpass, about Fed Chair Jerome Powell. A lot of theories floating around about why rates aren't coming down yet, but you're going to be interested in what he has to say specifically about that and other things, too. Take a look. David, it's an honor to have you here and in person, live and in person.
Hi, great to be here.
Absolutely. All right. President Trump has had a lot to say about Jerome Powell, Fed chair. I think a lot of people anticipated a rate change, especially considering that the economy, it's not where President Trump wants it to be, but it's definitely moving in the right direction.
The economy is doing well. The rates are too high. They should be cut. But, you know, the Fed's models just don't allow that the way they're set up right now. They look mindlessly at the CPI inflation or the core PCE deflator, and they say, well, it's still too high. And also growth is too fast in their mind. You know, there's this core problem at the Fed that they think growth is bad. So I think that's got to be changed fully.
Government's antiquated? What?
It's 50, the Fed's 50 years old in all their models.
Yeah, it is actually. And it's amazing. We're the world's biggest and most important economy, and we have a Fed that actually probably operates in like a 1980s, 70s mindset. What's the way to put the cardiac paddles on that and start to change it in a way that it's probably resistant to?
I think you have to realize it's a sea change, a new paradigm, whatever word you want to do. I call it a full upheaval. And that means changing the models so that growth is a positive. It makes us better able to pay our debt. The interest rates can be lower with more growth. Think of a company. If a company's doing well, they get to borrow more money and the market rewards that. Their bond rating, it goes up and their interest rates go down. That's not the way it's done for central banking. And so you just really have to say, throw that model away and give us a model that gives us a stable dollar and lower interest rates. And I think that can be done, but it's going to take some work explaining to people and new people at the Fed.
Yeah, fresh blood.
Does Jerome Powell strike you as the type of person who can institute a new model? He's been there, 7 years at this point, and really no changes.
And he was there as even prior. And
Yeah.
so I don't think that's the mindset of the current Fed to make changes. They're kind of happy with what they've done. Think of the problems, though. They've had inflation, deflation cycles. They've lost literally $1 trillion to taxpayers. If you think the national debt's gone from 35 to 36 trillion, that one of those trillions is the Fed, and they're at risk of doing another trillion. They did, you know, they're supposed to be a regulator, but Silicon Valley Bank just blew up. Important to me is small business lending hasn't been growing. And the Fed is causing that. This is the inequality or the weakness in median income growth. I think owes a lot to what the Fed's models are doing. They basically favor safety and rich people in the way that they operate the policy. So that all every part of that can be changed. It's up to President Trump, but also you have to fight for change within the country and the economy.
Yeah, no doubt. It is sort of stuck in its ways, and so it needs that little boost. I want to turn to what the president has achieved already in just the first 6 months. You've got a record amount of tariff revenues coming in, $100 billion as of last week come in. You've got the jobs report exceeding expectation for 4 straight months. You've got the first real spending cuts in Congress, or slowing of spending in Congress in three decades. Still a lot of work to be done, but I think the economy is probably performing way better than people would have imagined in January.
It is, and people sell short. The U.S. the wonder of this country is the resilience of businesses. And so they change rapidly. One of the things going on is on energy. So if you create the prospect that you're going to be putting out more energy, then businesses say, oh, I'm going to be able to participate in that supply chain, and also I'm going to be able to make my products. And so they invest. Look at Europe. They don't have energy, and so they're dead in the water. It's almost a perpetual recession there. That they could change that, but they don't seem to want to. President Trump has changed that completely, and so businesses then say, I'll do sweat equity. One of the problems, and I dwell on this, is the banks aren't able to lend to small businesses because of the regulatory framework and what the Fed is doing. That also could be changed. Think if you had a resurgence in small business lending. It's been dead flat in nominal terms for 3 years. That's commercial and industrial loans. So how can you grow that way? So it's almost like people in the U.S. are so strong, they're swimming upstream, which is amazing, but that
should make it easier,
America.
though, right?
Yeah, that's right.
With Kelly Loeffler, why haven't we changed that regulatory framework yet?
Now, the Small Business Administration kind of does direct help to small businesses.
Right.
This is not the way a market economy really is. So it's a useful sidecar, but the core has to be private sector, people starting new businesses and able to walk into their bank and say, will you loan against my inventory? I'm so successful, I need more inventory, and I'm good for it, and you can look at the inventory, it's saleable, so make me a loan so I can get more. And the banks are basically saying no. So I wouldn't rest on the idea that some part of the US government can cause this. They have to get out of the way. I want less government, less Fed regulation, less bias toward big government and big business.
That makes sense.
When it comes to the value of the U.S. dollar, there are a lot of nations out there who like to leverage their argument by criticizing the value of our dollar. It's part of the reason that the BRICS nations, that coalition was formed. But President Trump could act quite quickly and make sure that the strength of the dollar was solidified, couldn't he?
I think he could and may, with his little finger, if he said, I really like the dollar and I don't want it to be weaker, I think it would stop. But, those other countries are jealous of the dollar. And so they love to badmouth the dollar. I think the U.S. is waiting its time. But can I make the case, if you knew that 30 years from now the dollar was going to be stable and hold its value, interest rates would be lower. That would really contribute both to short-term and long-term interest rates being lower. And that would allow the housing boom and the construction boom that we really need. So the question, I think, for the administration, and it's a Treasury Department question, is what's your timing? We went into 2025 with failures by Biden all over the place, including on trade, and they've been rightly focused on trade and the tax bill. The big, beautiful bill was vital to get done. So now the decks are clear on that. Some of the trade deals are coming in. So I think it's time to think about how do you create a crypto world where the U.S. is dominant.
That's the key. Move to the next generation of currency. The other big super player on the stage is China, and it seems to me, watching the last 6 months of China's economy, there is some real serious troubles there that maybe don't get reported in the American media. That's good for America, but tell us what's going on with China. They
were pumping money into real estate and also excess manufacturing. So now Trump's pulling the rug out from under them, so they're in trouble. One thing to keep in mind, though, they really have created a big economy. I think sometimes people don't realize really how successful they were. Part of that was on the back of the trading system and of the U.S. So as you take that away, they feel the pressure. But I don't want to be overconfident. They're going to go around the world and lock up new markets for themselves, and we have to guard against that. So for right now, they're kind of politically bailing out various parts of the country when they feel like it, and they'll probably keep doing that.
Makes sense.
All right, before we let you go, a twofer. Fed Chair Jerome Powell, you've crossed paths with him just a few times. Do you anticipate that President Trump's criticism of him is having any type of impact? And even if so, who would you like to see in that position?
I don't know about the impact. You know, the Fed is this institution that's been entrenched for a long time, so don't underestimate them either. Kind of like China. As far as what I think should be done is somebody that it has massive change and realizes what Trump stands for. Yep. That means the median income, and if you think of the forgotten man or the manufacturing worker, what's going to be good for them? And I am insistent that if you have a stable dollar over time, you're going to get lower interest rates and more job creation, and that's going to drive up real wages. And so the person's going to benefit, and that's Trump's core audience. That's who he's campaigned on protecting. So we need a sea change at the Fed in order to do that.
Yeah. David Malpass, always a wonderful conversation. You're so wise in these issues. Thank you for being here.
Thank you both.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Hey, it's a new day in America and a new administration in Washington, D.C. There's a lot of excitement and optimism about the future, but the reality is there's a lot of work to do as well, especially when it comes to fixing our broken healthcare system. The truth is that the forces that are responsible for breaking our healthcare system aren't going to simply go away. The challenges our system faces won't disappear overnight. Now more than ever, you need to be prepared. That's where the Wellness Company comes in. Their doctors are medical professionals that you can trust, and their line of prescription medical kits are the gold standard when it comes to keeping you safe and healthy, as well as your family. Whether it's the medical emergency kit, the contagion kit, the first aid kit, or the travel kit, these prescription kits contain an assortment of life-saving medications and guidebooks to assist in the proper use of these medications. From the flu to strep throat, from COVID to the bird flu, from a trip to the beach to a trip overseas, the Wellness Company has a prescription kit designed to keep you and your family safe. Make America healthy again. Start at home. Do your part and protect the health of you and your family. Go to twc.health/justnews today and order. That's twc.health/justnews and use the promo code JUSTNEWS to save 10% off. Welcome back, America. As we said at the top of the show, Democrats have a mortgage fraud problem. First, it was Carol Mosby, the Baltimore State's attorney, Democrat in Maryland, got convicted. Then it was the Attorney General of New York who pursued Donald Trump. She is now under investigation, and now Senator Adam Schiff. Now, that last one will probably sound familiar to you because back in October, we had Seamus Bruner on the show. We did a really important story that said the senator was using two homes at the same time as his primary residence, which a lot of people said was mortgage fraud. Today, we learned from President Trump that there's a referral from Fannie Mae, the mortgage giant, to the Justice Department to investigate that. Joining us now, the man who broke that great story right here on Just the News and Real America's Voice. He's the Executive Director of Research at the Government Accountability Institute, one of the best investigative reporters know, and a best-selling author of the book Compromised and Control Oligarchs and Fallout, which I was lucky enough to work on. He is our good friend, Seamus Bruner. Seamus, welcome back.
Hey, John, Amanda, it's great to see you. Yeah, this is big news. No one is above the law, as the Democrats like to remind us. That story outlined the pattern of apparent mortgage fraud where Adam Schiff, since 2003, has owned homes in either Maryland or Burbank, California, refinancing them several times along the way and claiming that both homes were his primary residence. That's a huge no-no. It comes with all kinds of financial perks, homestead exemptions and lower interest rates. You're supposed to pay a higher interest rate on your second home. Well, if they're both your primary residence, this could amount to tens of thousands of dollars. And in 2020, Adam Schiff basically admitted by reclassifying the Maryland home as his secondary residence that he had for over 10 years been double dipping here. So this is big news. Fannie Mae's Financial Crimes Division says that this is an apparent pattern of mortgage fraud. They've shipped it off, as you said, to the DOJ, and next steps are whether there's going to be a grand jury, and there's a few other things that could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you anticipate that the outcome will be anything close to justice, though? Because, I suppose that you look at instances like Bobby Goldbar's, Bob Menendez, and a lot of people thought, well, nothing's actually going to happen there, but it did. Maybe that's because we're in a new era of law and order and under a Department of Justice that actually believes in keeping and enforcing the laws?
Yeah, well, there's a number of potential remedies here. I mean, Adam Schiff apparently got a get out of jail free card from Joe Biden on the way out for any kind of possible crime. So that's a tough thing to get past. But there's other civil penalties. Fannie Mae can actually retroactively claw back some of this money, slap him with a fine. I believe GOP House investigators can open up hearings and get him on the record. And him going down as a potential mortgage cheat is a form of justice.
Yeah, it would be forever appended to his bio, which a politician does not like to have negativity attached to their bio. When you are pardoned, and obviously there's a big question about whether the pardons are lawful, but let's assume for a second they withstand scrutiny. You still can be sued civilly. So the mortgage giant could sue him for mortgage fraud under the civil statutes. And perceive that there's an interesting twist. Once you've been pardoned for something, you can't take the Fifth Amendment anymore because you're no longer in danger of being prosecuted. So he may actually be forced to allocute in some of these venues, like let's say Congress called him. He might have to confess to it because he couldn't take the Fifth Amendment. It really does put Adam Schiff in a really awkward position right now, doesn't it?
Yeah, that you're exactly right, John. And this interesting twist with, once pardoned, you get this immunity. Therefore, you can't claim the Fifth because you don't face any legal jeopardy. Hunter Biden was in the same situation. And this really does actually make Joe Biden look bad for giving these kind of blanket pardons when you don't even know what potential crimes may have been committed. Like, I don't think Joe Biden, if he knew anything at all when he was signing these pardons or having the auto pen sign these pardons, I don't think he was thinking about Adam Schiff's mortgage fraud problems. He was thinking about, all of the investigative witch hunts that he was involved with. So signing these blanket pardons, I mean, there's got to be something done about this. You can't just say retroactively anything this person ever committed, they're getting out of jail free for. But it does present this new interesting scenario where he can't plead the Fifth. So this will be kind of fun to watch. What I expect the justice that'll be done, he'll probably pay a fine, pay back the taxes that he saved on, and potentially the homestead exemptions and all of that, and maybe Fannie Mae will make him pay that interest that he saved by claiming as a primary residence. So there's a number of remedies, but overall, I just look forward to hearing him have to actually finally answer for this.
Yeah, but as John said, having that asterisk next to his bio is definitely going to leave a mark.
Wikipedia's going to have to struggle with that one.
Yeah, indeed. Seamus, I want to ask you about this explosive reporting put out by a legendary journalist by the name of John Solomon regarding this possible 10-year grand conspiracy being investigated starting essentially in 2016, 2017, investigating wiretapping. Who knows? Donald Trump carried all the way through.
Adam Schiff was a big part of all
That's
of that
right.
miraging, right?
That's right.
Yeah,
and carried through the 2020 and the 2024 election. That's going to be a really, really long and hard and nuanced and probably really difficult investigation. But do you think we'll finally get some answers at the end?
Yeah, it is good. I mean, thankfully for John, actually, I mean, thanks to John's reporting, Sarah Carter's, Peter Schweitzer's, too many to list. 3 elections were interfered with, the 2016, the 2020, and even the most recent election. You've got FBI and swamp monsters trying to put their fingers on the scales in these elections, going back to Comey, but then through 2020 and into 2024. So a grand conspiracy is truly what happened here. And fortunately, we know most of the things that went down. Now it's just time to finally, I mean, I was so encouraged to see CIA Director Ratcliffe, the CIA memo where they finally admit things we've known for years with Carter Page and the FISA, the defrauding really the FISA court with this stuff. It's good to see finally the agencies fessing up to what went down, and whether we're past the statute of limitations or not remains to be seen. But 2024 wasn't that long ago, and you definitely have shenanigans happening. Shenanigans have probably happened in every election, but not to the same scale as
Hey,
2016,
Seamus, we're going to
20,
interrupt
and
you for a
24.
second. President Trump just came out at the airport. We want to catch what he's saying. Well, we'll come right back to you. Hang on one second.
Explain
Sure.
it any better. The letters are a deal. The press doesn't want to pick that up. But I will veer from those deals on occasion when somebody is willing. Like if Japan would open up their country, they don't do that. They just don't do that. And I don't either. I don't subscribe to it one way or the other. But they won't do that. So we might just stick with the letter. South Korea is inclined to maybe do that. So we'll let you know. But we have letters out. Every time I send out a letter, essentially that's a deal.
Mr. President, on your the date you gave August 1st, but the date that you gave of August 1st,
Right.
why stick with the date if you're saying that you
No,
might...
payments start on August 1st. The only thing that's really sacred about August 1st is that's when payments start. So they have to start paying billions of dollars to you and people. Are you a citizen of the country?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. You'll be very happy because you're going to be getting a lot of money. Just like they found a budget surplus. We have a budget surplus of $25 billion. Everyone said, how did that happen? It hasn't happened in many years. It happened because of good management and tariffs.
Do you plan to release more details of the Vietnam, China deals? Is there going to be a paperwork released to the public?
Well, I might. I don't think it matters how much you release of the deal. We have a Vietnam deal, and I would say that deal is being pretty well set. It's pretty well set. Again, that's an opening of their country. They've opened it up. Just so you know, these were closed countries. They were wonderful people, wonderful leaders, very strong, smart leaders. But their countries were closed to us, but our country wasn't closed to them. And so I said, you got to open up your country. So we're going to see. But the Vietnam deal, we may open it. I mean, I don't know. I can't tell you. Is it necessary?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Mr. President, on Ukraine, why did you settle on giving Putin another 50 days? It seems like he's had a lot of time to show he wants peace.
I don't think it's a long time. I think really the question should be asked, why did Biden get us into that ridiculous war? Why did Biden bring us there? That should never, ever have happened, that war. This is Biden's war. I'm just trying to end it because we're saving a lot of lives.
Why do you think his opinion will change in 50 days when it hasn't over the last...
A lot of opinions change very rapidly. Might not be 50 days. Might be much sooner than 50 days.
To that end, when do you think the first Patriot missiles, some of these weapons that our allies will buy...
They're already being shipped.
From what countries?
They're coming in from Germany and then replaced by Germany, and in all cases, the United States gets paid back in full. So what's happening, as you know, is the European Union, if you look, mostly European Union stuff, but let's put it in the form of NATO. It's very similar. But NATO is going to pay us back for everything. In some cases, we're going to be paid back by countries of the European Union directly.
Are we starting to see those
But
payments?
we're always getting our money back in full. So we're not going to have any more investment to make. We're getting our money back in full. And if we can make a deal, that'd be great. We're saving 5,000 or 6,000 soldiers a week. They're Russian and they're Ukrainian soldiers. They're not American soldiers. And we won't have boots on the ground. But it's a shame. 5,000. Last week they say 7,100 soldiers, both Russian and Ukraine, were killed.
Can I ask you about Iran? Have you seen any progress in talks with Iran? We haven't really heard about that in a while.
Well, they want to talk. I'm in no rush to talk. They would like to talk. I'm in no rush to talk because we obliterated their site. They'd have to start all over. In fact, it's obliterated to the point that it's not usable anymore. They'd have to pick a different mountain. That mountain is so blown up inside and so unstable that they would have to pick a different mountain. Our people really did the job. Yes, please.
On the Fed, sir, would you fire Jerome Powell over the Treasury renovation?
Well, he spent $2.5 million building this place. I have to say this. I think he's terrible. I think he's a total stiff. But the one thing I didn't see him as a guy that needed a palace to live in. You talk to the guy, it's like talking to a nothing. It's like talking to a chair. No personality, no high intelligence, no nothing. But the one thing I would have never guessed is that he would be spending $2.5 billion to build a little extension onto the Fed.
Is that a fireable
Nobody's
offense?
ever seen. I think it sort of is, because if you look at his testimony to the House and the Senate, you take a look at the testimony, it's under it. That whole thing is, he's not talking about the problem. It's a big problem. 2.5 billion, and that's 2.5 billion now. That's going to be a lot more money than 2.5 billion to expand. And with all of that, to house thousands of people to give him information, and yet out of the 71 economists, and they included me and one other person got it right. I got it right, and one other genius got it right. They had everybody else was wrong. 69 were wrong, and 2 were right. I was one of them. And I don't have a lot of people. I have Howard. I have Doug. I have a few people. He has thousands of people, and he got it wrong. No, I think when you spend $2.5 billion on really a renovation, I think it's pretty disgraceful.
Chair, sir.
Have you spoken to President Putin since your announcement yesterday?
No, I have not.
Do you think when you speak to him on the phone, does he say that he wants peace?
Yeah,
he
does.
What does he say to you?
He says he wants peace. He does. So far, it's all talk and no action. But you know, if you think about it, India, Pakistan, we did so many. The Congo, and I mean, look at the deals we've made. We made all these peace deals. Look at Rwanda. It was an impossible deal to make with the Congo. I made that. I made all of these deals, Serbia, Kosovo, and here's the one deal. And actually, Vladimir called me up. He said, I'd love to help you with respect to making a deal with a couple of them, like Iran. I'd love to help you. I say, Vladimir, I only want to help with one deal, Russia, because you're the only deal that we're not doing too well on. He oftentimes he said, no, he wants peace. And I think he does. I hope he does. We're going to find out soon. And it could be before the 50 days.
Mr. President, twice yesterday, when you were talking about this, you mentioned conversations you had with the First Lady after talking with President Putin. Has she influenced your thinking on this at all?
She's very smart. She's very neutral. She's very neutral in the sense. She's sort of like me. She'd like to see people stop dying. You know, people said, are you for one side or another? I'm for the side of people stopping dying. We have 5,000, 6,000, and 7,000 people a week at least. And that doesn't include people from the cities and towns that are having rockets lobbed in there. I mean, people are dying in the cities and towns too, but we're talking about 7,100 in the last 8 days died. And I'm for stopping that.
On the Fed chair, sir, is Scott Bessent, your Treasury Secretary, your number one option whenever Jerome Powell leaves? Or
well, he's an option.
Is he your top
and he's
option?
very good. Well, he's not, because I like the job he's doing.
Right.
That's why he's not.
You couldn't do both, sir?
I like the job. I don't know if he was on the plane. Was he on the plane? I don't know. Maybe he wasn't. But I do like the job he's done.
Right.
So, in that sense, probably he's not that much of an option.
Right.
Scott's been great. He's been terrific. He did a good job today. He's a very soothing force. You know, he's soothing. All right.
Mr. President,
The pharmaceutical.
The pharmaceuticals will be tariffed probably at the end of the month. And we're going to start off with a low tariff and give the pharmaceutical companies a year or so to build. And then we're going to make it a very high tariff, because we got to move them in. Look, there's two ways you do it. You make money or you have them move here so they don't have to pay the tariff. Those are the two ways. The pharmaceutical companies are moving back to America where they should be.
Semiconductors, sir, is that in the same timeline? The semiconductor tariff?
Similar, actually less complicated, but similar. Semiconductors and chips.
Mr. President, I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled? Why
I
do you
don't
think that is?
understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. but I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say let them have it.
Mr. President, a question on AI. How do you want Americans to think about it? Are you concerned about job loss or privacy, or do you think this is the new technology?
It's interesting because we need jobs. We need a lot of people to work. You know, we're going to be building very shortly hundreds of factories, including AI. We're building a lot of car factories. They're all coming in from other countries now in order to avoid paying the tariffs. And we need people working. So if AI can help us with that, that's a positive. Because we're not going to have enough workers to take care of it if we don't create something. So whether it's robots or whether it's AI, we need somebody to take care of. Do you agree with that?
I agree. So many jobs to build. I mean, think about $15 trillion. That's 5 million people working in these factories, building them great high-paying jobs in America that President Trump has brought back. So those jobs, of course, are in the wings. So let's go, let's train America, and let's get it going.
What do you think about what would you say about the job?
Well, I think with AI, as Howard and the President said, we're going to need more workers in this country because President Trump, as the greatest economic developer that this country's ever had, has brought back this record amount of foreign direct investment and a record amount of U.S. investment going back into job creation. But the mix is going to change. AI will take jobs away like software development because AI can write code, but AI can't wire a building, do plumbing. I mean, if kids go into the trades today, they're all going to be making 150 grand and they'll have amazing lives, build companies, start businesses. I mean, this is part of the boom of America because middle class, working Americans will never have had it as good. They have lower taxes, lower regulation, and more opportunities to go to work to build things.
We need people. We really need, because we're building so many factories in the country, and so AI can help with that. But what also is going to help are going to be robots. You know, the robots, I think, are going to be a big deal, and that's going to help also.
On the Russian sanctions, sir, on the secondary tariffs, are you concerned that secondary tariffs on buyers of Russian oil will hurt American consumers, higher gas prices?
I don't think so. I think that whole thing is going to go away eventually. It should have gone away. And Putin does say, oh, I want peace, I want peace. But so far, he hasn't lived up to that. So I think it's going to go away. But we're going to find out soon. We're going to find out soon.
Can you give us more details on the sanctions? Is it 100% sanctions?
No, I don't want to do that. But they're very biting. They're very significant. And they're going to be very bad for the countries involved. I mean, they'll be very, very powerful and very bad for the countries involved. And I hope we don't have to pull that string. And maybe we won't. We'll see. Got to end. Got to stop the killing.
Mr. President, were you frustrated today that the House wasn't able to move on that crypto legislation?
No, you know, the interesting thing is the 12 votes were votes where they wanted it to be stronger in terms of crypto people. I figured, oh, wow, that's sort of interesting, because I was focused really on today's meeting, not that. But the interesting is the votes, those negative votes, were because they wanted it to be, and the safeguards, they wanted it to be stronger for people with Bitcoin or crypto. They wanted more strength, which is interesting.
What do you want to refine in the UK trade deal?
We have a little to discuss, but the deal is really very well done. But I'll meet with the Prime Minister. We have a good relationship. And I think it's going to be, and it'll be very shortly, and it'll be probably in Aberdeen, Scotland.
Mr. President, at the event,
which state besides Texas would you like Republicans to gerrymander?
Say it again.
Which state besides Texas would you like Republicans to redraw the congressional?
Well, there's about 4 of them. I'll let you figure that one out, but we have about 4 of them. In 3 cases, it's 1, and in 1 case, it's 2 or 3. And Texas would be.
Are you concerned California will turn around and do the same thing?
Well, we'll fight them. You know, they're so corrupt in California, you never know what's going to happen. But we've done pretty well in the courts in California, as you see. We're batting about 1,000, ultimately. We start off a little slow, and then we get a lot of hits.
Mr. President, you said today at the event in Pittsburgh that if it wasn't for Mr. Lutnick, Mr. Besson, who want to do more deals, that you would basically just go with the letters. You've said that a few different times. I just want to clarify. Do you just want to go with the tariffs and
No, I
move
think
on?
they would like to make deals more than me. I'm satisfied with, but they would like to make deals more than me. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying, in my opinion, he and Scott and maybe even Doug to a certain extent, you're more like me, I think, but they would like to make deals more than me. I'm very happy with the deals the way they are. Those are very, right? Those are very simple deals. It's whatever the percentage is. And we base that on a lot of things, including the deficit and, various things. And, I think it's a much faster way. Don't forget, we'll be releasing a letter soon talking about many countries that are much smaller, where you're not going to do letters per se. You might do an individual letter, but it's going to go very quickly. And the number will also be less.
Which countries are those?
These are countries that are, many of them, like 200 countries. You understand?
Caribbean countries, African countries. You have a huge amount of countries that are small, and the president's just going to deal with them sort of the way he thinks is the right way to deal with them.
We'll probably set one tariff for all of them.
Over 10%? Over 10% tariff?
Probably a little over 10%, yeah.
15, 20?
We don't do a lot of business, but we do, it's still significant.
What about Israel, Mr. President? Is that related to your other, like the Gaza negotiations? Is that tied up in other issues?
No, I think Israel's going to be fine. We had a great victory with Israel. That was a great, great victory. What we did with the B-2 bombers and all of that. And I never thought of it, but so many people are thanking me. They say no president had the guts to do it because, this has been going on for 25 years. In fact, when the pilots came to the Oval Office, they said, "Sir, we and our predecessors have been working on this attack for 25 years. Have a good time, everybody. Thank you, President. Thank you.
Wow, a lot of news there, Amanda.
Always.
The president talking about his expectation for tariffs, how it's going to play out, the revenue that's going to come in, and also a lot of discussion about don't worry about the inflation. It's not going to drive inflation. We're going to get these tariffs negotiated down to a good spot.
Yeah.
A pretty robust Q&A. It's remarkable how many times a day President Trump comes out and just starts taking questions. He's not afraid to answer. Joe Biden could have done any of that.
Yeah, I'm
It's
trying to
remarkable.
remember the metric that they talked about at the beginning of President Trump's second term, and it was like, in the first 3 months of President Trump's his second term in office,
Yeah.
he took more questions than Joe Biden did his entire term in office.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
Oh, it's
And
remarkable.
President Trump talking about the tariffs, that is again messaging to Jerome Powell, saying chill it on the inflation talk.
Yep.
We've got these tariffs, this tariff revenue coming in, and I love what he said about August 1st. He said it's not a magical date. It's the world, especially renters in the world. I've been a renter for much of my life, and I think of that's when rent's due, and that's when the payments are due for the tariff.
That's how life works.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable. Speaking of getting questions to the president, we're going to have him on tomorrow. He's
Indeed
supposed to
we
phone
are.
into the show. We're really
Lots to
excited
talk
about that. Lots to talk about over just the last few days of developments. A pretty remarkable day all around. I think we'll be watching now. We had some guests lined up. We're going to get them on tomorrow. Bud Cummins, former U.S. Attorney Little Rock's going to be here. We'll talk about the grand conspiracy case and also what sort of fate a senator from California might just face. We're talking about Adam Schiff. So tune in tomorrow. It's going to be a great night.
As it turns out, Shifty Schiff was shifting back and forth from his Maryland to his California residence, and apparently he even realizes how bad the California market is in real estate. All right, everybody, thanks so much
Who
for...
knew Maryland was going to be the alternative?
I know,
Yeah.
right? Who knew Maryland was going to be the cheaper option between the
Yeah.
two? Because I've seen housing prices in
It's
Maryland,
expensive.
and a lot of the
Yeah.
state, they're quite expensive. All right,
Yep.
everybody, thanks so much for being here with us tonight. We're going to be back here again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern with the President of the United States and many other amazing guests like we were just talking about. Bud Cummins.